Time once again for the Kaufman Corner podcast. With you, as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli. My name is Soren Petro. Rany, one of the co-founders of Baseball Prospectus. I host the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB, and we are talking Royals baseball here. There's still a chance for postseason. I mean, Rany's going to actually do this. What that chance is. So I look forward to it. Rany has more time than I do. I didn't know doctors had so much time on their hands, but Rany's going to do it. Carter Jensen in the leadoff, crazy idea or pure genius. We'll talk about that. The Royals pitchers have a health problem for 2026 already. You know, a lot of people going down. That's not good. We'll talk about that. How important is finishing at 500 or better? What will mean a good season? What's the bar at for next year as we look to that? What do we want to see in this final week? What's the number one priority for 2026? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We are off and running, and we are ready for Rany to tell us how there is still a chance. Rany, you're a glutton, by the way. But we can see six back. What's the path now?
Soren, when the season started, you and I agreed that while we thought and hoped that the Royals would make the playoffs, I think we were at least hoping that they would still be in the race, quote unquote, mathematically alive when we did our next to last podcast of the regular season, if not the last podcast of the regular season next week. And they are. They are not mathematically eliminated. The question is why? Because when I was looking at the standings today, it actually took me some time to figure out why they didn't have the little E next to their team name in the standings, like pretty much every other team with a 500 record or lower. They are, as you said, 6 games left, and they are 6 games behind both the Guardians and the Rangers. So it does mean if they go 6-0 and the Guardians go 0-6 and the Astros go 0-6, all 3 teams will finish 84 and 78. The problem is if that happens, the Guardians win on tiebreakers. So again, I was confused until I realized the Rangers could be the fly in the ointment here, because if they go exactly 5-1, you have a 4-way tie for one playoff spot at 84 and 78. And if you go through the tiebreakers, in that scenario, the winner of the tiebreaker is the team that has the best head-to-head record against the other 3 teams. And shockingly, that is the Kansas City Royals. So all the Royals need to do is go 6-0, have the Guardians go 0-6, have the Astros go 0-6, have the Rangers go exactly 5-1. They can't go 6-0. They can't go 4-2. Now, they do finish the season playing the Guardians, so they have to sweep the Guardians, but those games count twice. They have to win 2 out of 3 in their upcoming series, then finish with a sweep. But yes, the Royals are mathematically alive. Do you want to know what the odds are that they pull this off?
Sure.
You really are a glutton for punishment then.
That's right.
Okay. Well, basically, it's roughly the odds of going. There's 21 games involved because the Rangers and Guardians play head to head. So it's roughly the odds at any given moment that a team goes 20-1 in their next 21 games. But because the Rangers can lose any one of 3 different games, the odds are 3 in 2,097,152.
And you felt that warranted your time.
It warranted multiple minutes on the premier Royals-related podcast on the internet. Absolutely. The odds are 0.000143%.
But I will
not zero, Soren, not zero.
Not zero. That's right. But I will say that it does officially mean that they entered the final week of the season still alive. And I think that's worth something.
It is. It is. They are 500. And, we've talked about this already, but like they got to 70. If they lose all 6 games, they still have 78 wins for just the 8th time in 32 years. Like this has been a disappointing season. Yeah, maybe. Frustrating. Yes. Bad season. No, I think, you don't have to like look at the long arc of the Royals history. Just look at the short-term history since basically 2017. And you have to conclude that 78 and 78 with the week to go and still mathematically alive by a sliver. I've rooted for teams with much, much worse seasons. I've found silver linings in much, much worse seasons. So It shouldn't be too hard for us to find some silver linings here.
No, I agree. And so officially for the record, they enter the final week of the season still alive. So that to me is, listen, playing meaningful games through most of September is a successful season for me. Like games that you're still in the fight, that's a successful season for me. We'll talk more about that and more about, what it's going to be for next year. Let's talk about Carter Jensen right here off the top. Carter Jensen batting in the leadoff. Crazy, pure genius.
Well, speaking of silver linings,
clearly can be nothing in between, right?
Well, I just want to take a moment and just appreciate what Carter Jensen's done this year. You talk about, a positive development for the future. I really went out on a limb when I said he was the best prospect in the system before the season began. And I did walk that back a little when Jack Caglione came out the gate like a house of fire. But right now, talking to you today, September 22nd, who would you rather have for the long-term future between Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen? I'm not certain. And that is a testament. It's okay, a little bit of a diss of Jack Caglione struggling at the major league level, but it's mostly a reflection of how much better Carter Jensen has been in the second half than he was in the first half. And that is something he does every year in the minor leagues. Like going back to his first full season as an 18-year-old in A-ball, like he had, a much better, his season OPS in 2022 was 745, but it was 868 from July 1st on. The following year, he had a 720 OPS for the season, but it was 790 after July 1st. Basically, right after his birthday is July 3rd. And it's like once he turns another year older, he levels up. And then last year, for the first time, he got promoted mid-season from A-ball to AA and didn't really fall off very much. And then this year, he was promoted from AA to AAA and got a lot hotter. All right, he had a 780 OPS in AA beginning of the year, first 68 games. And then in 43 games in Omaha, he had an OPS over 1,000. And then he's in the majors and in, 46 plate appearances, he's shown more promise than a lot of Royals, top prospects show in their first 460 plate appearances in the majors. Like he looks like he's ready in a way that you don't see from a lot of Royals prospects. And then on top of that, at least to this point, he appears to project as a catcher just as much as he did 2 or 3 years ago. Like he has, maybe he'll turn into MJ Melendez defensively. I don't know what the future holds, but I still think he can be a major league catcher. So let's just pause for a moment and just say, like, leadoff or not leadoff, Carter Jensen looks like an everyday major league player for 2026. And that was very much in doubt a year ago, 6 months ago, even 3 months ago. He's ready. Like I fully expect that he will be on the opening day roster next year, which will make him eligible for the prospect promotion incentive, bonus draft pick if he wins Rookie of the Year. You have to win it. You can't finish second, unfortunately. But I fully expect he'll be on the roster, and I fully expect that he will catch at least some of the time next year. So, kudos to him. As in terms of leading him off, I mean, that to me is it's not crazy at all. It's crazy like a fox maybe, but I absolutely love it. And I'm going to just quote myself here one more time and pat myself on the back, but with reason. So on September 6th, our mutual colleague Jason Anderson, who used to be my partner on the radio when I had my short-lived radio show on 810 back in 2009, 2010. He after Carter Jensen batting seventh, I think, had driven in Caglione. He just tweeted out, "Carter has driven in Cags twice tonight, two of hopefully many, many more." And I responded, which I rarely use Twitter now, but I actually wanted to push back against this, and I told him I disagree. I want Jensen, better OBP, batting ahead of Cags, more slug for the next decade or so. And then I wrote this. Crazy as it sounds, Jensen might actually be the best leadoff option by 2027. So I thought 2 weeks ago, I'm like, crazy as it sounds, I think Carter Jensen's leadoff skills could, if once he's established himself as a major league hitter in next year, hopefully, that he might be so promising that the Royals will defy convention and put a catcher in the leadoff spot because his OBP skills are so important. And also the fact that he's a left-handed batter really helps because the Royals don't have enough right-handed bats. And I like to split them up in the middle of the lineup. Having a right-hander like Jonathan India or Maikel Garcia batting leadoff, and you end up with too many lefties at the bottom of the lineup. So I bring this up not to pat myself on the back, but to say, like, it didn't take 2 years. It took Matt Quatraro less than 2 weeks to say, yeah, let's try Carter Jensen in the leadoff spot. And in the first game he batted leadoff, the Royals scored 20 runs, which, talk about positive reinforcement. So I think it's brilliant. I think Carter Jensen, I've said this before, but I believe it more now than ever. I believe the player he resembles more than anyone else in Royals history, and it's not really close, is Darryl Porter. The on base is phenomenal. The power is underrated. He could be an elite hitter and still be a good defensive catcher. It's a projection, but it's a lot less wild a projection today than it was when he was, in A-ball. I really believe Carter Jensen is not just a top 100 prospect. He's absolutely a top 50 prospect in my mind. And one of the most positive developments of this season for the Royals is that a guy who was very much on the border, he could have gone either way in the minor leagues this year, has really taken a big step forward.
He's a top 50 prospect for you, or you think all the prospects?
I think he is for me. I think he will be around their consensus national. Like even 3 months ago, there were a lot of organizations, Baseball America and Baseball Prospectus, I don't think had them in their top 100. MLB Pipeline, I think, had them in their top 100 to start the year. But like at the beginning of the year, most organizations had Blake Mitchell ahead of him. And look, Blake Mitchell had some bad luck in that he broke the hamate boat in his hand in spring training, and we knew that would impact his ability to hit this year, especially his power. That's what usually happens with hamate injuries. But you can't ignore the fact that Blake Mitchell slugged 296 in A-ball after coming back from his injury. The on base was still there, but I've long felt that people were underrating Carter Jensen compared to Blake Mitchell because Carter Jensen was so much younger when he was drafted than Blake Mitchell was when he was drafted. People miss Carter Jensen's only 13 months older than Blake Mitchell. There were 2 drafts apart, but they're basically 1 year apart in age. And what Carter was doing at a much higher level last year was more impressive than what Blake Mitchell was doing. And I still think Blake Mitchell, if his hand is healthy and the power comes back, could still be a very good prospect. But I feel like Carter Jensen is clearly past Blake Mitchell in the eyes of the industry and in the eyes of the Royals. I think Blake Mitchell now is actually more of trade bait than Carter Jensen is, whereas a year ago might have been vice versa. And I'm very happy about that because I was the one who thought that trading Carter Jensen would actually be a mistake because he was underrated. And I think Carter Jensen now, especially being a local kid, I think not that should be the prime determinant, but I think that'll make it even more difficult for the Royals to consider moving him, especially because he could probably help this team significantly next year.
So if he's good enough to hit in the leadoff spot, does that mean he's too good to catch?
Well, I think it means, like Salvi, he's capable of playing even on days where he doesn't catch. And so there's absolutely a scenario in which Carter Jensen and Salvador Perez essentially occupy 2 spots in the lineup almost every game next year. I think, frankly, I'd like to see Salvi get more rest than Carter against tough right-handers. But one of them catches, one of them DHs. Your backup catcher is your DH. Matt Cordero has shown, no fear of doing that in the past. Yes, every now and then you might have to pull your, pull your DH and have him catch, and then give up the DH spot in the lineup. But due to an injury, or catcher gets hit on the hand or something. But that happens a couple times a year. It's worth that risk in order to have both bats in the lineup. So I think I could see a scenario where Carter Jensen catches, let's say, 60 times next year, but DHs 60 to 80 times and is in the lineup, 130 games in the season. And Salvador Perez, kind of the opposite. Maybe Salvi's getting 100 starts behind the plate. I'd frankly like to see more of a 50-50 split, but they both can catch, they both can DH. And I think they can both contribute in both roles.
Yeah, I think but then now you're married to Caglione in the outfield, right? That's where he's going to play. I mean, you can find at bats, where one of them's out there here and there. It's good depth. I think it is tough to catch, and I mean, I know catchers have to lead off sometimes, but every game, when you're going to be at home and then turn around and get all the gear off and get out there. I mean, it can be done.
It's rare, but I mean, like Jason Kendall did it for years for the Pirates. I mean,
that was one of the comments we had was about that he's how did he put it?
Evolutionary Jason Kendall here.
Yeah.
I don't like the comp as players because they're actually kind of opposite as players. Kendall was right-handed, didn't have Carter's power, but was like one of the faster catchers in Major League history. I mean, I think he might hold the modern Major League record for most stolen bases by a catcher. So different players, but they're connected by the fact that they can both lead off. But I think Carter Jensen, in the modern era, I think teams are, as the Royals have shown, are much more amenable to having a guy who doesn't have elite speed, but gets on base, batting number one. And, the Royals have shown a commitment with obviously trading for Jonathan India that they understand OBP matters most in the leadoff spot. I mean, Jonathan India has 0 steals this season, among his other issues, but he did get on base at a decent clip. And like I said, especially with Bobby Witt married to the number 2 spot in the lineup, as he should be, I don't want to have 2 right-handers at the top of the lineup when you may only have 4 right-handers in the entire lineup. I want to split them up. So having a lefty batting leadoff, that's why Mike Yastrzemski was such a good fit in that role as well, because he was left-handed, and then that allows you to bat Michael Garcia 4. Ideally, I would have Bobby 2, Michael Garcia maybe 4, and then Salvi 6, split them up. The problem sometimes the Royals have been batting Michael and Salvi back-to-back 4 and 5, and then they've had 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 have all been left-handed with Cags and Jensen and Kyle Isbell, Michael Massey, and Adam Frazier, I think were the 5. And 5 lefties in a row is you're just begging other teams to run all of their lefty specialists out against you.
But I mean, listen, we can, and Cam came up with, he's got, near as I can tell, 4 guys DHing out of this right here. Where he's going, but bottom line is when you get that many guys, make a trade. I mean, isn't that what we're going to talk about here? If that's how you're going to play, you're going to have to trade somebody.
You do. What complicates things is that you're not trading Salvador Perez, and Salvador Perez is a guy who, you're not going to trade Vinny, and I don't think you should trade Carter. So those 3, at least, I don't think you're moving. Those 3 might all get some DH at bats. This plan does, I think, therefore require Caglione to play right field almost exclusively. Again, it's just probably a year or two. In a year or two, once Salvador Perez, retires or moves into a part-time role, that's around the time you would expect Caglione with his size and as he moves into his mid-20s, maybe if he starts to slow down, then you can move him back to the dirt and have him play more first base. But I'm okay with 1 to 2 more years of Jack Caglione as your starting right fielder, because it does make everybody else fit together better.
Yeah. I just, To me, I don't think you want to. First of all, I think you need to find somebody else to bat lead off. I don't think you want your catcher up there at the top. And so I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's pure genius. I just don't think it's ideal.
I think it might be the best of some bad options. I mean, look, the Royals literally their entire offseason agenda last winter for their offense revolved around trading for a leadoff hitter, and they got a guy that we both really, really liked. We thought it was the perfect solution given their limitations or what they had available to trade, et cetera, et cetera. And it didn't work out great. Jonathan India has been a disappointment. So if the alternative is that you have to go out and spend resources to find the perfect leadoff hitter, I'd almost rather just say, you know what, we've got a good leadoff hitting option in-house that's ready to go, that is, young and likely to improve. We don't have to trade any capital for him. We don't have to spend any money for him. Let's focus. Look, we definitely need to get a bat, but I don't want to be limited to, well, we have to get a leadoff hitting bat. The Royals, the beggars can't be choosers, and the Royals need an outfielder more than anything. Whether it's a leadoff guy, a middle lineup guy, it needs to be somebody who doesn't bat eighth or ninth. That's what they need.
Well, they've also got the option of Michael Garcia potentially moving into the leadoff spot. I mean, and then also some days it's Michael, some days it's Carter Jensen. I mean, depending upon whether it's a right-hander or a left-hander on the mound. Sure. I mean, that's the modern approach. So we know that they do have options. What do you think? I mean, this is 45 at bats, and you're declaring Carter Jensen all done. Ready to come out of the oven, perfectly baked. Browned. Just put the ice cream on top and serve. What do you think he is? We're going to look back and are you ready to say he is Darryl Porter?
No, I'm not ready to say he's Darryl Porter, who was a very, very good player for 14 years in the major leagues. I'm not certain Carter Jensen's ready, but I think he's not ready to be an above average player necessarily, but will he hit, and he's not going to hit 300 like he is right now in 14 games, but even if he hits 240, the secondary skills that he has are enough to make him a valuable player. And I think he could hit 240 with a 320 OBP and a 380 slug as a rookie. The 700 OPS is not sexy, but as we both know, that would be, on this team, on any team, but especially on the Royals, that would make him one of the, probably the fifth best player on the lineup. And I think there's a little bit of upside there. So I think that's what he is now. But I think, given his youth, I mean, he's just turned, is he 22 or 23 now? 22, right? Yeah, 22 years old. 3 years from now, this guy could be one of the 3 or 4 best hitting catchers in baseball. I mean, if things go according to plan. And, defensively, I have not seen anything to make me nervous. The problem is framing is really, until we get automatic balls and strikes, framing is such a huge part of a catcher's value. And that is something that is really hard for us to evaluate until a guy gets to the major leagues and gets to catch a lot. He's caught 38 innings in the major leagues. I don't know how good a framer he's going to be. I think I've seen enough of his other skills. His ability is, we know what his pop times are. He threw out his first base runner this week on a very nice throw. I don't, I see no reason to think he can't handle the other parts of the skills of catching, but framing specifically, I just don't know. But I think he can catch at the major league level. I think he can be a league average hitter as soon as next year. That's a 3-win player right there. That's a guy who will, if he plays every day, get some rookie of the year votes, whether he'll be at the top or finish 5th. I don't know, but I mean, that's a guy worth playing right now.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk about, some of the injuries that are piling up here for the Royals pitching staff. We'll do that after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Your favorites are back, Kansas City, now for a limited time at all your Kansas City Whataburger locations. The Bacon Wrangler Double, 2 large beef patties, American Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, fried onion strings, pickles, and chipotle aioli sauce. Or how about the sweet and spicy bacon burger? 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt or even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger Dr. Pepper Blackberry Shake. Remember, Whataburger is open 24 hours a day with breakfast served from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're muted, Soren. Now I can hear you.
Okay, I'm not muted. So I was never muted. I don't know. Anyway, where do you sit on the injuries, Randy?
So the injuries, not good, obviously, but I don't necessarily think it is a pattern, in part because like some guys it's been shoulder and some guys it's been elbow. I mean, obviously the injury I'm most concerned about right now, frankly, is Ryan Bergert. Well, we can get to that. Some guys it's been their back, right? So some of it may just be luck regression from last year because they had, they were shockingly injury-free last year. But even if it is a pattern, I think this is the price you have to pay because like the reason we see pitchers getting hurt more than ever, despite teams being more cautious than ever with using pitchers, is that pitchers are being asked to work at the very borders of their ability all the time. And if you don't, you're going to get rocked. And, Chris Bubich to me is just the best example of this from the Royals perspective, which is, since Brian Sweeney and the new regime came in, he blew out his elbow, came back, and then missed, half this season with a shoulder injury. But in between, he was more valuable in, one season, half of which was, spent in the bullpen, than he had ever been in his major league career. And I'm sure if you ask even him, would you rather be effective like you have been over the last 2 years, but frequently hurt? Or would you rather be generally healthy, but pitch as well as you did, your first 3 years in the major leagues? I think you probably, nobody wants to be hurt, but I think you'd probably admit he's more valuable in this current role. And so unless this becomes a start of a trend that it gets even worse, I think this is just the price you have to pay. I mean, because look at the other side of this. Yes, the Royals seem to always have somebody on the injured list. On the other hand, they have basically 8 major league caliber starting pitchers to choose from when healthy. So they can afford to have 1 or 2 or even 3 of these guys out at any given time and still put together a more formidable rotation than they've had basically in a decade. Who's scaring you the most right now? I mean, out of the guys that have, is it Ryan Bergert? It's Bergert because I hear elbow tightness or forearm tightness, I guess is the official. It scares the hell out of me. And if he felt it one pitch that's mild, okay, he was warming up, just doing his warm up between starts. If that's all it was, hopefully it's nothing. A couple months rest. It's the perfect time of year. You'll be fine. But we have to acknowledge the fact that the 2 starts he made before he felt it were terrible. Were the worst 2 starts he had made as a Royal. Not even close. And, I'd like to say that, sometimes the hitters are the first people to tell you that you're not 100%. And that's certainly the case with Seth Lugo. And so I do worry that if there was something going on with his elbow before he felt it, look, it's September. So he's going to get 6 months of rest. That's awesome. But my worry is this: the most common time of year for a pitcher to undergo Tommy John surgery is March, right? Is spring training. And the fear I have is they shut him down. He feels good. Elbows back to, no problems. He comes back to spring training. He feels it again, but now it's tighter. They do the MRI and he's blowing out his elbow and he has to get surgery. Like, God forbid he has to have surgery at all. But if you're going to have Tommy John surgery, September is ideally it's the day after you win Game 7 of the World Series. But if you're not going to the playoffs, September is the best time to do it because you'll be back. It can take up to 18 months. Mostly 15, 16 months is a pretty typical time frame nowadays for a guy to get back on the mound at the major league level. If it happens in September, he will be, he'll miss one season, but he'll be back in 2027, still with 4 years of club control and a new, a healthy elbow now, a newly minted elbow. Because I believe he's already had Tommy John once, and usually, you usually get at least 4 or 5 years out of a new one. So if it's going to happen, I'd much rather have the surgery now than find out in March, and then you've blown a whole year and probably half. Chris Bubich got injured. What was his third start? I think so. It was like early April, maybe around April 10th. He was back on the mound in the major leagues by July. He only missed half a year, but also he was in the bullpen for that half season, which made it easier. So that's my worry is that, they shut him down now. And the problem is, even if everything goes well, even the Royals won't know for sure. We're all going to be holding our breath. They could do everything right in terms of management, and still the first time he takes the mound and pitches to hitters in anger in spring training, the Royals are going to be holding their breath. He's going to be holding his breath. So that's the part that sucks. The other stuff, Cole Reagans, it was, one start, but frankly, one inning was all I needed to see to say, okay, if like I said, if the hitters will tell you when you're not 100%, they might also tell you when you are 100%, because that first inning, 11 pitches, 9 swing and misses, not 9 strikes, not a couple of foul balls and, a called strike. No, swing and misses, whiffs, as we call them. If you have 30 in a start, that's like historic. I think Danny Duffy might have the Royals record. It's like 35 swing and misses in a game, 35 whiffs. Cole Reagans had 9 in one inning out of 11 pitches. That is absurd. And that's, I feel very good about that. He's starting tomorrow and presumably will start the final game of the season as well. And I would like to see him just, 70, 75 pitches, no reason to push him, but just to feel good that that arm is 100%. He can bounce back every 5th day, etc. But I feel pretty good about Cole Reagans. Seth Lugo, it sucks, but it is his back. Rest is sometimes the only thing you can do for that, but 6 months of rest, unless he needs surgery, which seems unlikely, I think he'll be fine. And then the other one, of course, that we found out is Ursic, which, again, hitters will tell you. And I've been saying all year that Ursic doesn't seem right. It seems like he's been kind of dealing with this for at least 2 to 3 months, but they said he could have, if we were going to the playoffs, he would probably still be out there fighting through it. And as a testament to him as a pitcher, that pitching with a shoulder that's not 100% this season, he has a 2.64 ERA, a 3.50 FIP. He has still been, inning for inning, one of the Royals' best relievers. But the telltale sign is his strikeout rate is just cratered. But that's a sign of, the fact that he fights through it. His command has been good. He's kept the ball in the park. So even with a strikeout rate that's dropped 30% from last year, he's still been effective. And I'm hoping this is actually a good sign that if he comes back 100% next year, just a little bit more velocity, a little bit more rise on his fastball, that he'll be closer to 2024 Lucas Ursic, who is just, a shutdown reliever, than the good setup man that was 2025 Lucas Ursic.
But you're happy to pay the price, right?
I think it's a price you have to pay. We've talked about the Rays, the Dodgers, so many other teams. It's just, show me a team that gets consistently is at the top of the league and fewest runs allowed, et cetera, that also is really good at keeping pitchers healthy. I'm not sure that team exists. Maybe they do. The Guardians, the Guardians have had injuries. Look, some baseline level of injuries is going to happen. But at least now the Royals are also reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah, I do think it's of note. You always want to do everything you can to avoid injuries. So you don't just go, cost of doing business, move on. Hey, let's look at our processes. Let's look at what we're doing here. Are we trying to overhaul too much too fast? Is there a way? And I'm sure the team is already knee deep in that, right? They don't need a couple of chuckleheads to tell them that that's what they need to do. I'm sure they're already on it. But I do think that this is, I think we had the exact opposite in the Dayton Moore era. I think it was all it was more about, look, we kept guys on the mound. Yeah, but they're terrible. Great. Kyle Davies took the ball every 5th day. He's terrible. Right. And I think that, This is an understanding. And I think, don't you think all these pitchers are in agreement as well?
That's exactly it. I think pitchers now look at the Royals and be like, they can make me better. Yeah, I might get hurt. And again, if this happens year after year after year, then you start to wonder, right? I mean, I would say at this point, the Dodgers have probably deservedly earned a reputation as, yeah, they'll make you better, but you will also burn out quickly and get hurt, right? And they'll pay you enough to make it worthwhile, right? Like, Tyler Glass now, they don't like the fact that you are injury prone is also, it's not something that the Dodgers shy away from in terms of giving money to guys. Like, they would rather have a guy who is brilliant for 100 innings a year than a guy who is, an innings eater and is just okay for 200 innings a year. Like, they'll happily put up with restricted innings in exchange for quality innings. But the Royals just 1 year ago had, one of the healthiest pitching staffs in baseball. So it might just be a fluke. Like you said, they definitely need to look at their processes and make sure they're not doing something that's putting these guys in jeopardy. But the fact that they had so few last year makes me feel like, if you just average out their injury rate, that there aren't any red flags here in terms of them, burning guys out, overworking them, being callous about the injuries. Maybe some of the guys that last year, were able to get through a full season, they just kind of wore out a little bit this year, but nothing career threatening. That's the other thing. None of these guys have had career threatening injuries to this point. They're still effective when they're on the mound. They just need some rest from time to time.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Like you said, Bubic coming back, Berger coming back. Whenever they do, we'll get kind of a feel for where it is. How important is it to finish at 500?
I mean, to me, honestly, I want to finish above 500. 500 itself, I want a winning record. And maybe it's just because there have been so few of those. They finished at exactly 500 in 2016. They finished a game under in 2017. But they've had 5 winning records since 1994. All right, 2003, 2013, 14, and 15, and last year. So I want to go 4-2 and get to 82 and 80. 82 and 80 to me means a lot. A winning record, it's a, maybe for some franchises that's a pathetic goal. I mean, the Yankees are working on a streak now of 30. I think this is their 32nd consecutive winning season. It got hairy there for a while. I was really hoping they would break that streak, but their all-time record, the all-time major league record, I believe, is 40. The Yankees from 1925 to 1964 went 40 consecutive winning seasons in a row. They're at 32 now. I would really like to see the Royals extend their streak to 2. How about we just get 2 back-to-back winning records? Is not something, we see very often. So I want 82 and 80, and I'll call this a successful year.
Yeah, I think, one, just they're already, being in contention, done a lot, but just to be able to look down and see 82 and 80 above 500, start stacking consistent quality years, makes it easier to go after free agents, makes it easier to re-sign your own. You're just, and it creates the culture. I mean, they're talking about the culture of winning. If you're not gonna sell guys off when the math says you're not going to get there. I mean, I'll go back to something I said to JJ Picola last time I had him on the radio show was, you're all about the math. You're all about the math. You're all about the math until the math says you only have a 14% chance of the playoffs. And you go, we think we're better. Are we following the math or are we following the math? Right. And so if you're not going to follow the math there and you're going to go for it under the pretenses of, and he said, look, promises were made to players in this organization. I think he's clearly talking about Bobby Witt. That one, part of getting Bobby Witt to sign was that we would compete. Okay, that's great. Let's all do it. But then get something done. You can't go for it and then win 67 games. That was the problem, to me, about the old regime. This is why I think it is important to try to get to 82 wins, is because the old regime was not tanking. They were not tearing it down. And then they'd still lose 105 games. Right? So, part of it is your process. You have to deliver on what you say your process is. Their process is to build a new culture, right? Is to build a winning culture. Well, that comes with winning records. So you can't say that, make some trades to try to make the team better, and then win, like I said, 72 games. That's not going to happen. Obviously, they're going to win at least 78. But I think it would really bode well for them to finish as high as they can for, hey, we went for it. We didn't get there, but we got better. I mean, I think all of that just bodes well for the overall mindset of the club.
You know what would be kind of cool? If the Royals finished above 500 and could still say with a straight face, we were disappointed with our season. Even if you and I could say, it's successful, but like to have a winning record and still be disappointed. I don't think that has happened since baseball went to a 3-division format. Like the last time you could say that would be literally 1993. Think about the years that they finished above 500. Last year, obviously, they made the playoffs. That was amazing. 2014, 2015, amazing. 2013, when they won 86 games. I remember that was the year Jason Maxwell hit a walk-off grand slam in the Royals' final home game. And it was like Fan Appreciation Day. People went absolutely crazy. And I remember being just devastated because it was like we were kind of like where we are now, where we were like 6 games out with 6 games out. It was just like the Royals' playoff odds were hanging by a thread. But people, I mean, understandably so, their first winning record, in 10 years, their second winning record in like 19 seasons, nobody was disappointed because, again, the expectations were so low. Obviously, 2003, they went 83 and 79, but we were over the moon. That team was above 500. It's amazing. How refreshing would it be to be above 500 and be like, not bad, but we were hoping for better. That actually, I actually feel like that attitude being projected by the organization, that's the sort of thing that I think will attract players. Do you want to sign with a team that went 82 and 80 and is like, can't believe they're lucky stars that they finished above 500? Is that an organization that you want to join, that you feel like, they have a culture of winning there? Or do you want to go to a team that's 82 and 80 and be like, it was fine, but we expect to do better and we plan to do better next year? Like, I actually think there's something refreshing about having a winning record and being hungry for more.
Yeah.
So but you have to be at 500 first. So let's finish with a winning week here, and then go into the offseason with your head held up high. You didn't make the playoffs, but you're one of the best non-playoff teams in baseball, and you have legitimate expectations that you will be better next year.
Was this a good year, a bad year? What will be a good year next year? We're going to talk about that next after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated injury lawyers. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. All right, so this year is going to be deemed a good year or bad year based upon what happens in these last 6 games?
I mean, again, it's not binary. 82 and 80 is not magically 10 times better than 81 and 81, but I just think emotionally it'll look better. And I worry, the Angels and A's are not pushovers. This is not the Rockies and White Sox part of the schedule. And if they go 1-5 and finish 79 and 83, it's going to feel like a thud. So I do feel like, certainly getting that win total into the 80s would be nice, but I do think that they can go into the offseason some really good vibes by just having a winning week.
Yeah. I think I think that would help. I think it's been a good year. I'm going to call it a good year. I mean, they have backed up what they did last year. We've talked about the record. I think that's important, but it is a good year this year in my mind. Could be, it'll be better if they can get to 82, 83, 84 wins. It'll definitely be a better year for those that have the over at like 82.5. I will tell you that. There's a lot of people watching these games this week with some of the tickets that are out there. How about what is a good season in 2026? How is that going to be defined coming off now these last, the 24 and 25 season combined?
Yeah. See, to me, I mean, and this is sort of my point about, like, how nice would it be to have a winning record and at least pretend to be disappointed a little bit. I think next year you have to you have to set the threshold for what constitutes a good season as, did you make the playoffs or not? I don't think that's unrealistic. I don't think that's unreasonable. There are 12 playoff teams, right? 30 teams total. You barely have to be in the top half. You have to be in the top 40% of baseball. This year, with as frustrating as the Royals are basically at 500, they're going to be probably the 15th or 16th best record in all of baseball. All right. They'll be in the top 50%, but not the top 40%. It's not much to ask them to move up 10 percentile, move up 3 teams in the power rankings of baseball next year, because they have some clear things they need to work on, but they've also now established, last year was not a fluke, they've established a talent base, a performance base that they don't need to exceed by very much next season in order to be a playoff team. So to me, we have to go into this offseason, I think everybody, us as fans, the front office, ownership, and set a standard. We expect next year this Kansas City Royals team, with one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, with a potential inner circle Hall of Famer at his peak. You cannot put that combination together and not make the playoffs in 2026.
Not have that be your primary goal. I mean, injuries will dictate a lot.
Sure. But I think that should be the goal. Like, I think it's reasonable to say,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where they are as a franchise. They are still not up and running completely until we start seeing all of JJ Piccolo, Brian Bridges draft picks in the system. So it is still, as much as everyone wants to be like, oh, it's on him now. Well, it's still kind of not. I mean, it's more and more on him every day, but it's still kind of not. So, I mean, like, it will be interesting. I mean, because they have depth at some of these spots. And so I think, what we expect from them will also be somewhat determined. I mean, it's always determined by your roster. That's kind of, it goes without saying, but what do they get done in this offseason? How do they reshape this roster, and does it fit better? Because I think it still doesn't fit great. And what do they do with Salvador Perez? And how can they convince Salvador Perez to, less is more from you? So, yeah, I think they have a lot to figure out. I mean, to me, the number one thing going into the offseason is, and I'm going to make this very broad, I don't want to be too specific, but they have to figure out how to do for the hitting side of the organization, not just the major league level, but like development up and down the farm system, what they did for the pitching side of the organization when they brought in not just Brian Sweeney, but Zach Bove and other, eventually the following year, more guys at the minor league level. Like, what they are doing, teaching hitting at the minor league level and at the major league level right now is not working. This team right now is still tied for last in runs, in the American League. And that's when they put up a 20 spot. 10 of those runs were scored against a position player throwing 2 innings. That 20-1 game. And look, it was fun. And, it's always great to see you'll run up the stats. And, Jack Caglione hit a home run off of a 54-mile-an-hour pitch. And, I'm happy for him. Maybe it'll give him some confidence. But, like, the Royals scored 10 runs that they shouldn't have, which might be the difference between them finishing last in runs scored and finishing 14th or even 13th if they catch the White Sox. And I bring this up only because, like, if the Royals look at their end-of-season performance and, hey, we got out of last place in runs scored, and use that as an excuse to not make major and significant changes on the hitting development side because of 2 innings against a position player, I'm going to turn into the Joker. Like, you cannot, like, use, a completely meaningless performance as a reason to ignore the very real problems you have on one side of the ball. You figured out the other side. I mean, 2 years in a row now with lots of injuries.
what they did this year is very nearly, given the injuries, is in some ways even more impressive than what they did last year, honestly. I mean, and to add Berger and Stephen Kolek in mid-season for your backup catcher, and Berger now is hurt, and Stephen Kolek has been phenomenal in 4 starts. Like the reason I have optimism here, the reason why I have high standards for next year, and I'm saying playoffs or bust next year, is precisely because I have so much confidence in what they're doing on the pitching side. They have to have higher standards on the hitting side. They don't have to lead the league in runs scored. But we said it before the year, if they finish 8th, they finish in the middle of the pack in runs scored, they'll be a playoff team. And guess what? If they finished 12th in the league in runs scored, they would probably be a playoff team.
And I think the thing moving forward is because of some of the depth that they have, particularly the pitching, they should be able to, like, the free agent market doesn't look good. And I think baseball free agency is trending towards football. Like, if you're any good, you're kept, right? What gets out there are the old, the broken down, what have you, or the incredibly pricey, right? Which is not really a shelf that the Royals are going to shop on. So I think they do enter into an off season as well with all kinds of ammunition to try to make the club, better when it's all said and done. What do you want to see in the final week of the season? I've got some numbers. I'll give you some things.
Hit me.
You got anything, beyond? I want to see him finish above 500, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Salvador Perez get his 100th RBI.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Noah Cameron with an ERA under 3.
That's a big one for me. Like, he would be right now. He is the 5th American League rookie since 1995 in the wild card era. 5th American League rookie with 130 innings and an ERA under 3. Just 5. So, like, that is a hell of an accomplishment, right?
Yeah, and let me be clear. When I say I want to see this, I'm not saying I want to see this or I'm going to shake my fist at them for not getting it done. I'm saying I want to see it. I think it'd be neat. I think this would be cool. These are some, statistical numbers that would be nice to get to. I'd like to see Michael Wacha get below 4, right? Just to feel good about that. Vinny Pasquantino is right around, I'd like to see him get to 333 on base. I always think of that, that's 1/3. Right. So that's a magic number in my head, 333, and keep his OPS over 800. He finally got above it.
I was going to say, the fact that he got his OPS above 800, like, I think maybe we're underrating just how incredible that is when you consider where he was at the end of April. I mean, he was hitting 177 with a 569 OPS at the end of April. So from May 1st on, he's hitting 291, 349, 516. Like, he's been an elite hitting first baseman for like 4.5 months now. We'll just make it 5. He has a higher OPS right now than Maikel Garcia. Right?
Yeah.
Maikel Garcia is right at 800. I'd really like to see Maikel Garcia stay at least at 800 because, maybe he's getting a little tired. He's just kind of slowing down a little bit. It's still been a great year. He's still well above average. He's been over 5 wins above replacement. Phenomenal, but I want to see his numbers stay up. The one other number I'll throw at you, Bobby Witt Jr. is at 96 runs scored. I want to see him get to 100. I mean, batting second on this team, 100, the fact that he hasn't gotten to 100 runs is maybe an indictment of the guys behind him, although Vinny's been batting behind him, most of the season has been great. So I'm kind of surprised he hasn't gotten there already, but you can't, 100 runs scored for a guy at the top of the lineup with his skill set, to me still seems like, the entry fee for greatness. So I'd like to see him get to 100 for the second year in a row.
Yeah, I would too. I'll give you a couple others. You mentioned Maikel Garcia. He's right at 350 on the on base. I'd love to see him be 350 and 800 with the OPS. I think that's important. And then Bobby Witt Jr., he's going to be hard for him to get to 300 on the batting average, right? But if he can
92,
white hot, I mean, he's right there away from being 300, 350, 500. 850 OPS. I mean, I'd love to see those. Those are some nice round numbers. I'd like to see those things.
I mean, I'm a little disappointed. He hasn't had a terrible September, but his doubles pace has really slowed down. He led the league in levels for much of the year. He was on pace for 50 doubles for most of the season, and that unfortunately has cut back. It's dwindled. He is currently at 43 doubles. Let me get the exact numbers here for you. 43 doubles, 23 homers, and 37 stolen bases. And the reason I bring that up is even with his doubles pace having slowed down, he is currently one of only 6 players in Major League history with at least 43 doubles, 23 homers, and 37 steals. The other 5 in a season. So the other 5, all of them this century, are Vlad Guerrero Sr., Alfonso Soriano, Bobby Abreu, Hanley Ramirez, and Jacoby Ellsbury. But if he could hit 4 or 5 more doubles, he could actually create a club that only he is part of. If he can get to like 49 doubles, which 6 doubles in a week would be tough, but he would actually create a club of like 1. But the fact that he's in this category with like 5 other players in all of baseball history in an off year says something about Bobby Witt and just like the breadth of skills that he has. It's just, he is the most complete player. Forgetting Royals history, he's one of the most complete players we've ever seen. I mean, in my lifetime. I just think about, peak Hanley Ramirez was putting up numbers like this, although Hanley Ramirez at his best was a bad defensive shortstop, and Bobby Witt might be the best defensive shortstop in baseball. Like, so when you talk about just the breadth of skills, Alfonso Soriano could power, speed, doubles, everything, not a great defensive player. I struggle to think in my lifetime, you can go back to Willie Mays if you want, but in my lifetime, there are very few guys who could do all the things that Bobby Witt can do. I would love for him to add a few more numbers to his stat line this week, and put himself in even more rarefied territory.
Anything else you want to see this week?
I mean, the winning record's the big thing.
Yeah.
Nobody else get hurt. Maybe I'd like to see
injury goes without saying.
I'd like to see Cole Reagans look good in his last 2 starts. Steven Cruz is back and pitched had a scoreless inning in his first start back again. I want to go into the offseason feeling good about the health records of some of these guys. Okay. And then by the time we talk next week, we'll see if they've done anything. I will point out 2 years ago we talked on Sunday night after a Sunday day game, and by the time you and I talked, the Royals had relieved Mike Matheny and Cal Eldred of their duties. So you talk about news that comes through. I'd be curious to see if we have any news between the last game of the season and the time you and I go live next Sunday night.
I know you wanted to finish with this. Number 1 priority for 2026 is what?
Like fix the hitting, fix it. I'm not gonna. I don't like calling for anybody's jobs, and I think that there's a way of doing this without losing anyone losing a position in the organization. But I think it's time to go bring new voices, people who have a track record in organizations that have done a good job of developing hitters. So when we talk about how, intrigued we were with Brian Sweeney when he came in because of the organizations he had come from. You and I didn't know anything about his philosophy per se, but we knew where he had worked. We knew what those organizations had done. We knew he was well respected, and clearly you're not going to be well respected in an organization without listening to all the other voices in that organization and contributing and impressing people. So, go out and add coaches to the organization from organizations that have shown they can develop hitting both at the minor league level and the major league level. I can give you a list of half a dozen organizations, maybe more, but I don't want to limit this. I just want to put that out there because, again, the Royals made some decisions within hours of the season ending 2 years ago that were some of the best decisions JJ Picollo has ever made.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for them to take the next step, because I'll finish with this. You talk about me being optimistic and insane. Like, if the Royals do for their hitting what they did for their pitching, forget about making the playoffs. This team, I could absolutely see a scenario where this team wins the division next year, where they win 90 plus games next year. Like, there is some talent here on the hitting side that has been, we have not seen the best of. Like, Jack Caglione figuring things out by himself is easily a 5-6 game swing between this year and next year. Right. And the pitching, you have so much depth that even if you have regression, even if you have injuries, I'm confident the pitching staff will still be comfortably above average next year. So there is a scenario. Like, I'm not saying this out of anger with the team, out of frustration with JJ Picollo. Quite the contrary. I'm saying this because I actually believe strongly that with just a couple of tweaks, that JJ Picollo has put together an organization that is capable of giving the Tigers and Guardians everything they can handle next year for first place in the American League Central.
Yeah, I would agree. Listen, you can always support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, locally owned, and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Our friends at Whataburger, now for a limited time, the Bacon Wrangler Double, the sweet and spicy bacon burger, the patty melt, the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all available right now. You can wash it down with the Dr. Pepper Blackberry Shake. Take advantage of it. Whataburger's open 24 hours a day. That's right. You're hungry now? Well, guess what? They're open. Also serving breakfast, 11 p to 11 a, and by our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google. 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, more than 40 years. They've been serving Kansas City, voted #1 accident lawyers in Kansas City, whether it's falls, work accidents, car accidents, you name it, they got you covered. If you have a case, text HURT to 22-222. Let me say that again. 22-222. Text HURT to 22-222 or call 816-400-HURT. For the good Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.